What is up YouTube, Sciz1 here, and have you ever wondered when doing a graffiti piece, am I using the best caps for this fill-in, or am I using the best caps to get flares, etc.? Well, today we are going to be answering those questions as we do the ultimate graffiti spray paint fat cap comparison. I'm going to demo all of these graffiti fat caps here for you guys. We're going to be comparing these by spray consistency and spray size, which will tell you how good each cap is for fill-ins, the level of atomization, which will indirectly sort of tell you if a cap is good for nice buttery flares and tags and smooth fill-ins, output, which of these caps are great for fast fill-ins or silent fill-ins, that's what that will tell us, and lastly, by which have the most solid lines without spray path deviation. So today here we've got a bit of a battle of the brands, you could say. We have the Ironlak Cyclone cap, the Molotow fat cap, Montana Silver Super Fat cap. We've also thrown in the Widowmaker cap by Ironlak, the Pink Dot, which is essentially the same thing, just not the Ironlak brand, and the classic New York fat cap to compare with. Also, if you guys want to pick up any of these caps for yourself, I have links in the description to some of the best deals on them that I could find. And if you do buy from my Amazon links in the description, it does help to support the channel. And it's a good deal too. I am using a flame orange high output can today. Of course, when you're testing these fat caps, you want a nice high output to test that with. These fat caps are made for those nice high output cans. That isn't to say though that you don't get some interesting and fun effects with some lower output cans as well. Specifically, you can get some very pristine buttery flares if you're using lower pressure cans, but the higher pressure cans are really going to bring out some of the flaws in these fat caps, and that's what we're here to examine today. First, let's start off with the New York fat cap to compare against, since it truly is the classic. The New York fat cap has cemented itself as the precedent setter for consistency and versatility with hard mistless lines. It sprays between just a modest 1 to 2 inches wide and atomizes paint pretty much to the industry standard, or actually a little bit better. So it's going to be our benchmark cap for today. And let me personally say, you can never go wrong with a New York fat caps for your pieces or for your tags, and they're light on the wallet too. So next up, the Cyclone cap by Ironlak was released a few years ago now, and boasts the largest coverage on the market with a 10 to 12 inch spray diameter, which you can get if you specifically tilt the cap back a little bit when spraying. Today here we got between 2 and 5 inches consistently. It's got a loud and ultra high output, but definitely lacks a bit of the consistency and clean atomization of the New York fat, as you can see by the flares here. This cap by nature is definitely a fast alternative for tags, sloppy flares, and of course, those beautiful throw-ups. So next up we have the Molotow fat cap, which has demonstrated some of the better spray consistency out of the group of fat caps here. It sprays between 2 and even 5 inches wide, so it competes right up there with the Cyclone cap if you really want it to, but I would argue it has a much more consistent output, and as you can see here with the flares, it gets these very nice flares with beautiful hard edges. So this is a great cap for those particularly detailed fill-ins that you want to be clean, precise, and with equal coverage throughout. When you do start to stretch its limits and go for those big 4 or 5 inch lines, you can tell the output gets just a little bit sloppy, but you will have no trouble whatsoever using this cap to do nice clean fill-ins at 2 to 3 inches wide. Next here we have the Montana Super Fat, and let me tell you, the name is a little bit deceiving. You can get very wide lines with this, even up to about 4 inches, but it does have one of the mistiest edges that you can get. Honestly, this cap is not the cleanest. It doesn't have the most consistent output of the grouping by any means, and I would certainly feel more comfortable personally working with this cap within, say, a 2 to 3 inch coverage range. That being said, the coverage and consistency would likely improve greatly if you were using this with a Montana paint can. And the story is the same with the flares. It doesn't really have those hard edges, and you can do nice messy flares with these, but it's not going to produce the consistency that a lot of writers might be looking for to do nice matte fill-ins. And next here, I want to talk about the Pink Dot and the Ironlak Widowmaker together. I want to talk about them together for a couple different reasons, but mainly to show that they really are the same cap, just one is made by Ironlak. And let me emphasize, the Ironlak caps have never been known to be made particularly well, certainly not as nice as some of the other caps made in the European regions. So personally, I think the test here goes to show that the Pink Dot, that isn't the Ironlak brand Widowmaker, performs quite a bit better here. That becomes a little bit more obvious when you start looking at the flares here. You know, the Pink Dot doesn't have the nicest cleaned edges on the flares, but it certainly atomizes the paint far better than the Widowmaker, which sort of vomits the paint onto the surface. I will say the Widowmaker by Ironlak is far louder than the other Pink Dot, which is a little bit surprising, but it is the truth. And I would encourage everyone to use the normal white cap that is the Pink Dot, rather than just relying on the stock caps that come on the Ironlak cans. Those are the Widowmaker caps. So now that we've tested these caps out and seen sort of what they can do, I am going to comment a little bit on the spray consistency, the level of atomization, and the output, those being the judging criteria that we want to examine a bit today. And then I'm going to make a few comments just sort of guiding you towards what caps you should use in what situation specifically. So right now you can see these are actually arranged by spray consistency, being most consistent over here to your left and least consistent to your right. In particular, these three here were very consistent: the New York Fat, Molotow Fat, and the Pink Dot. The consistency was really clear when you started trying to do flares with them. If you guys want, you can go back and look at the footage of the flares of each of these. The Cyclone cap wasn't bad either. These two sort of lacked the consistency though. In terms of atomization, I'm just going to split them into three groups. Again, this group, very, very consistent atomization. That seems to go with the spray consistency. Again, demonstrated by the flares. These two, not too bad. And then the only one that really struggles and sort of vomited out the paint onto the surface we were testing on was here the Widowmaker. Of course, it being a stock cap by Ironlak, you don't expect it to have great atomization. And the third category we said we would comment on is output. And once again, I am arranging these into three groups, but really the main cutoff point is sort of here over these two caps by Ironlak, the Cyclone cap, and of course the Widowmaker. They have very, very high output. And those two are specifically the caps you might want to be considering using if you're, again, doing quick tags and throw ups, or you want to get a piece done quickly. These other ones over here, not the highest output, still very, very high, don't get me wrong, including the New York Fat, but they do not burn through your paint cans quite as quickly as these two caps right here. And now to specifically answer the question I asked at the beginning of the video, have you ever wondered if you're using the right caps? Well, that was sort of a bit of a trick question, because the cap isn't what makes the artist. Your skill level and how much you've practiced and used your medium specifically will tell you how good you are. So really, all I can recommend is just get used to using a couple caps that you enjoy specifically and have good results with, and that will serve you well. If you're a newer writer and you talk to any older generation writer, they will tell you right from the get-go, you can't go wrong with the New York Fat. I've used these for my entire sort of graffiti career. I love them. I could do entire pieces with them. They're a great consistent cap. They're great to get used to as a beginner. And then my personal favorites, working into sort of these other ones here, I would use probably a Pink Dot all the time. It's very, very consistent. You could see that in the tests, and it has an incredibly high output. Most of the time, if you want to get a very nice vibrant finish on a piece or something like that, the skinnier you go with your caps, the better the fill will actually look and the more consistent it will actually be. So it's really up to you for how consistent you want to be in terms of fill-ins. If you can answer that question for yourself, that'll help you determine determine which of these fat caps you want to use, or if you just don't even want to go wider than a New York fat. To be honest, I almost never use anything wider than a New York fat, unless I have huge areas to fill in. So I hope that tells you a little bit about each of these caps. Make sure if you are a diehard fan of any of these caps in particular that you leave it in the comments and tell everyone why. This is important because we can all learn from each other and gain the experience and knowledge about these great caps that can help us make some more impressive pieces. If you guys do want to check out a video of this cap right here, the mosquito cap, it's supposed to be the skinniest spray paint cap in the world. I will link that on screen right over there. I will see you over there. Until my next one, peace.